I never thought my life as a janitor in a dusty hospital in Albuquerque, New Mexico, would lead me to crashing a funeral in broad daylight. But there I was, heart pounding like a jackhammer, staring at a sea of faces in St. Michael's Cathedral, knowing the woman in that closed casket wasn't dead. I'd seen her breathing just hours ago, her chest rising and falling in the dim light of her room at Western Mercy Hospital. My name is John Ramirez, and at 52, I've spent 3 decades mopping floors, scrubbing toilets, and fading into the background like the red dirt that clings to everything out here in the Southwest. People look right through you when you're the guy with the mop, doctors barking orders, nurses giving polite nods, patients too lost in their pain to notice. It's honest work,
though, and I've always told myself that.
Kept me going after Maria, my wife, passed from that damn cancer when our daughter Sophia was just a toddler. Raised her on my own in a cramped trailer on the edge of town, scraping by on a salary that barely covered the electric bill and her piano lessons. Sophia's 20 now, studying music at the University of New Mexico, juggling waitressing gigs and online tutoring to make ends meet. I lie awake some nights, staring at the ceiling fan whirring uselessly against the desert heat, wondering if I could have given her more. If I'd chased that dream of studying geology back in my 20s, instead of dropping everything when my old man bailed and left Mom drowning in debt. But regrets don't pay the rent, do they? They just eat at you from the inside, whispering what-ifs until you shove them down deep. It all started 3 weeks back, on a chilly February evening. Eleanor Hayes was rushed into Western Mercy's ICU after a massive stroke hit her like a lightning bolt in her office at Hayes Mining Corporation, the outfit she'd built into a powerhouse extracting copper and silver from these arid hills. Billions in assets, employing half the town. But to me, she was just another soul in room 412, hooked to machines that hummed like distant coyotes. I clock in at 7 p.m. for the graveyard shift. When the hospital quiets down and the Real ghosts come out, the regrets, the loneliness. That first night, I push my card in, the wheels squeaking on the linoleum. The room was sterile, empty of visitors, just the beep of monitors and the faint scent of sage from the open window overlooking the Sandia Mountains. Nurse Carla Mendoza, a tough but kind woman in her 30s who'd actually learned my name over the years, was adjusting in 4. Go ahead and clean, John, she said, not looking up. She's stable, but deep coma. No brain activity showing yet. Families debating next steps. I nodded, started my ritual, empty the trash, barely anything in it. Mop with that pine-scented disinfectant that masks the fear in the air, wipe down every surface like it was my own home. But something stopped me cold that night. Eleanor looked so human, lying there. Not defeated, just resting. Her silver hair fanned out like she'd wake any second and demand a status report on her mines. She reminded me of Mom. Not in appearance, Mom was full-blooded Navajo, with that resilient spark, but in the quiet dignity, even as life tried to strip it away. Why'd I care? Maybe it was the isolation wrapping around her like a shroud. Or maybe I was projecting my own invisible existence onto her. Evening. Mrs. Hayes, I murmured as I finished up, touching her hand lightly. It was warm, pulsing with life. Carla caught it and smiled faintly. That's kind of you,
John.
Most folks don't bother. But inside, a storm brewed. Why was I bothering? Was it pity? Or something deeper? Like recognizing a kindred spirit trapped by circumstance? The next night, I brought my old phone, queued up some soft folk tunes, Johnny Cash ballads that Sophia swore could soothe the soul. Played them low while I worked, the guitar strums cutting through the mechanical hum. Carla popped in again. Music? That's thoughtful. Studies say it might help coma patients. I shrugged. Figured it beats the silence. My girl's into music, says it reaches places words can't. But really, it was for me too. A way to fill the void that had been growing since Maria's death. Nights alone in the trailer, replaying how I could have been more educated, more successful, more present for Sophia. Instead, I was the guy who knew every crack in the hospital floor, but nothing about the rocks beneath them. By the third night, the words spilled out unbidden as I mopped. Mrs.
Hayes.
It's John again. Sorry about the squeaky cart. Maintenance is always backed up out here. I talked about the day, the rude doc who snapped at me for a spill, the sunset painting the mountains gold. Then deeper stuff. Sophia's killing it at UN. Wants to teach kids music in the schools around here. Says she got her love of it from her mom. Maria had a voice that could hush a storm. My chest tightened. Why confess to a stranger? Because she couldn't judge. Couldn't pity. Or maybe because in that coma, she was as invisible as I felt. I dreamed of geology once. You know, mapping these lands. Understanding the earth we pull from. But life. It derails you. Dad split. Mom needed help. And suddenly I'm here. 30 years in. The words hung heavy, stirring that inner conflict, pride in my work clashing with the ache of untapped potential. Was I a failure for staying put? Or a hero for enduring? Eleanor didn't answer. But saying it aloud lightened the load, if only a fraction. As the days blurred, it became habit. I'd play tunes, Cash, Dylan, even some Navajo chant Sophia shared, and share fragments of my soul. Reading about mineral deposits in library books, I'd say. Your company's revolutionized eco-mining out here. Impressive how you balance profit and the land. One night, I sank into the visitor's chair, feet throbbing from miles of floors. Wish I'd had your chances, Mrs.
Hayes.
But hey, mopping's taught me resilience, like the desert, I guess. Dry, but enduring. Inside, turmoil raged. Was this connection real? Or just my desperation? Loneliness clawed deeper each shift, making me question if I'd ever break free from this cycle. Week 2 hit like a dust storm, whipping up changes I couldn't ignore. The nurses buzzed with whispers. Dr.
Elena Torres.
Our neurologist noted flickers of brain activity on scans. Responding to sounds, she told Carla one night as I eavesdropped from the hall. Invisible as ever. Hope sparked in me, fragile as a match in the wind. But then Victor Hayes.
Eleanor Son.
Started showing up more. Mid-40s. Slick in his tailored cowboy boots and suit that screamed oil money. He treated everyone like obstacles, including me. He'd barge past without a glance, phone glued to his ear, barking about streamlining operations at the mining corp. One evening, I was swabbing the floor outside her room when voices leaked through the cracked door. How long until we can pull the plug? Victor's tone was ice cold, laced with impatience.
Dr.
Torres hesitated. Mr.
Hayes.
Your mother's showing improvement. We need time. Comas can turn around. Time costs money.
Doc.
You said no activity, initially. Let's get a second opinion. Declare her gone so we can move on. A silence stretched. Then Torres. That wouldn't be accurate legally or medically. She's not brain dead. There's progress. Victor's voice dropped low. Keep her comfortable.
No heroics.
Understand. I froze. Mop dripping. A chill snaking down my spine. Was this grief? Or greed? Inside. My mind raced, Victor stood to inherit everything. The mines, the fortune. But pulling life support on someone improving? That smelled like murder wrapped in legalese. The conflict tore at me that night in the trailer. Sophia's old piano gathering dust in the corner. What if he's right? I muttered to myself, pacing under the flickering bulb. Families have rights, power of attorney, all that. But she twitched yesterday, I saw it. Doubt gnawed. Was I overstepping? A janitor playing detective? Yet the injustice burned, mirroring my own buried dreams. If I stayed silent, was I complicit? Sleep evaded me, replaced by visions of Eleanor fading away, her dignity stolen. Next shift, I doubled down, played louder music, talked more urgently. Hang in there, Mrs.
Hayes.
Your company's legacy needs you.
And
I need to believe kindness matters. Her finger moved again, deliberate this time. I hit the call button, heart slamming. Carla checked. Spasms?
probably.
But I'll log it. But I knew better. It felt like a response. A silent plea.
Then,
3 days ago, the hammer fell. Overheard in the break room. Admins murmuring about resolving the Hayes case. Sons pushing hard, donor influence. But Torres says improvement. Ethics aside. Paperwork's prepped for declaration. My blood ran cold. In the West, money talks louder than morals, especially with mining tycoons. That night, room 412 was stripped bare, Eleanor transferred to palliative. Carla looked away. Family choice.
John.
They can refuse treatment. But she was getting better. Rage boiled inside. How could they bend laws like this? Power of attorney was one thing. But faking decline? I stormed to palliative. Key card granting access, janitors abuse at their peril. There she was in room 705. Alive. Breathing steadily. No death. Just a quiet exile. Terror and fury warred within. Expose this, and I'd lose everything, job, stability for Sophia. But silence? That'd kill my soul. The inner storm peaked at 3 a.m. Back in the trailer, staring at Maria's faded photo. What would you do?
Amor.
I whispered. Guilt flooded. Years of putting duty over dreams. Now facing a choice that could upend it all. Was I brave? Or foolish? Dawn broke with resolve. I'd crash that funeral. No more invisibility. At St. Michael's, the cathedral buzzed with Albuquerque's elite, mining execs, politicians, all mourning a peaceful passing. Victor at the podium, voice smooth as snake oil. My mother built an empire from these rugged lands, teaching us to know when to let go. Lies dripped like venom. My legs carried me forward, uniforms stark against their suits. She's not dead, I shouted, voice cracking the solemn air. Gasps rippled. Victor paled. Security. This lunatic's deranged, a janitor. But I stood firm. Eleanor's alive at Western Mercy. Room 705. I saw her breathing this morning. Call, verify. Chaos erupted.
Phones out.
Murmurs turning to outrage. The cathedral dissolved into pandemonium, whispers exploding into shouts. People scrambling for phones like prospectors hitting gold. Victor lunged toward me, face twisted in fury. You're fired. Slander. I'll sue you into the ground. Security grabbed my arms. But I wrenched free long enough to yell. Check the hospital. She's in palliative. Not a morgue. An older man in a BOLO tie stood. Harold Jenkins. Eleanor's longtime lawyer and a fixture in New Mexico mining circles. Hold on, he boomed, dialing on speaker. Western Mercy. Patient status, Eleanor Hayes. The operator paused, stable and palliative. Coma state. The room inhaled collectively. Alive. Harold echoed. Victor stammered. Impossible. Death cert signed. But the tide turned. Police sirens wailed outside. Cuffed and dragged to a squad car. Doubt crashed over me. What had I done? Sophia's face flashed, her future jeopardized by my recklessness. Idiot. I berated myself inwardly. Years of caution. Thrown away for a stranger. Yet beneath the fear, a spark of righteousness burned. I'd seen her. Truly seen her. When others averted eyes. At the station, interrogation dragged, cops grilling me on motives. Just doing right, I insisted. But inside, turmoil raged. Was this payback for my own overlooked life? Or genuine care? Hours later, Jenkins arrived. You're free. Hospitals confessing. Admin took bribes from Victor to falsify records. Override Torres. Relief flooded. Mingled with shock. Victor arrested for fraud. Bribery. Attempted manslaughter under New Mexico law. Power of attorney abused. Ethics board involved. Back at the trailer. Exhaustion hit. But sleep brought nightmares. Eleanor's hand twitching. Victor's glare. Why risk it all? I questioned my reflection. Loneliness amplified the chaos. Maria gone. Sophia distant with her studies. But a call from Carla shifted it. Eleanor's stirring more. Your music. Your talks. Docs think it helped. Hope pierced the darkness. But guilt lingered. Had I shattered a family irreparably? For days post-funeral, I snuck into her room during shift, playing Dylan softly. You're safe now, Mrs. Hayes. Truth's out. Her eyes fluttered open, hazy. Searching. John, she rasped, gripping my hand. Nurses swarmed. Tests confirmed awakening. Through the frenzy, she held on. I heard you. The music. Your stories. Tears stung. She'd been there. In the void. My voice an anchor. Recovery loomed, therapy in the desert heat. Relearning steps on sun-baked paths. Jenkins visited daily. Untangling legals. Victor's gambling debts exposed. His push for inheritance a desperate grab. Hospital settled for millions. Admin fired. Facing charges. But Victor? Bail denied. Trial pending. Inside me, emotions deepened, pride warring with sorrow for the broken family. Could I have talked to him first? I pondered nights, wind howling outside. But no, silence would have been betrayal. Weeks blurred into a haze of routine, but the storm inside intensified. Eleanor's therapy sessions became legend around the hospital, her grit mirroring the unyielding Mace's.
Ide catch glimpses.
Mopping nearby, her weak smiles fueling my resolve. One evening, summoned to the new admin's office, Dr. Lisa Grant, a no-nonsense import from Denver. Mrs. Hayes wants you. In room 705, she sat upright, frail but fierce. Jenkins beside her. John.
Seek.
Her voice trembled but held command. You saved me, not just from that grave, but from the darkness. I heard your confessions, your dreams buried like untapped veins, shame burned. I didn't mean to intrude. You didn't. You reminded me of humanity when mine failed. She handed an envelope, a check for $200,000. For your trailer, pay it off. And this, admission to UNM's geology program. Full ride. I chair their board. Stunned, I stammered. Why? Because you saw potential in me. I'll see it in you. Internship at Hayes Mining awaits, paid. In eco-extraction. Tears flowed. And Sophia? Tuition covered. She can teach without worry. Gratitude clashed with unworthiness inside. Am I deserving? A lifetime mopping. Now this. But her words echoed. It's never too late.
John.
I started Hayes at 45. Against odds. The gift cracked my defenses. Emotion surging. Joy for Sophia. Terror of change. Victor's trial loomed. His pleas of desperation surfacing. Debts from Vegas runs. Pressure cracking him. Eleanor visited him in jail. Whispers of forgiveness filtering out. He's my son, she confided once. Inner conflict peaked. Had my actions healed or harmed? But seeing Sophia beam over the phone. Dad. I can breathe now. Tipped the scale. 6 months on. I'm in a UNM lecture hall. Notebook in hand. Absorbing strata and sediments at 52, the old timer, amid fresh faces. Laughter at my expense. But it's light. They're curious about the janitor-turned-geologist. 3 days weekly at Hayes Mining. Hands in soil. Learning sustainable digs that honor the land. Sophia teaches at a local elementary. Her piano class is alive with kids' joy. We cry together over dinners. Bonds mended. My trailer's mine outright. No more eviction fears. Eleanor's back helm. Reforming Hayes. Higher wages. Green initiatives. Scholarships for workers' kids. Victor? Sentenced to 15 years. But Eleanor's letters hint at redemption, therapy. Perhaps early release if reformed. Family's complicated, she told me. Your kindness taught me to offer second chances. Reflecting under starlit skies. Emotions overwhelm, from invisible to pivotal. My act rippled outward. The lesson? Kindness in shadows forges light. Forgiveness mends what greed breaks. I wasn't a hero, just a man who cared. And in the West's vastness, that's enough to change worlds.